But when we come into this world, we are feeling creatures. Have you ever seen a little baby human? They don't do much, but they're feeling. They don't act much, and they don't think much, but they're feeling a lot, okay? Their bodies don't work, even their vision is not fully formed. So we start off as feeling creatures, and when we leave this world, when we are on our deathbeds, our bodies don't work very well, and it's not a time to start philosophizing. It's what is left in the heart. It's the shraddha that counts. When we break up that word, where one places one's heart, that is what one's fate is, according to the Gita, 17:3. I discovered that in the Upanishads, there are 3 realms that are spoken of. The space without the self, the space within the self, again, karma, the space without the self, jnana, the space within the self, and finally, bhakti, the space within the heart. These 3 things are constituent. I know that there are philosophical traditions that engage in polemics about which one is better. It's not a question of which one's better. They're constituent. They all have to be there. The primacy of feeling, though, is clear from the beginning of our lives to the very end. So we have the outer world, the inner world, and the innermost world. Important layers of human existence. And excuse me for being risking being over-promotional here, self-promotional here, but the cover of my Gita is not just a pretty cover. It has its purpose. And I don't know how well you can see it, but the bottom of the book represents the outer world of conflict and suffering. You see the horses, the Kurukshetra war, right? The horses are coming together in conflict and tension. And this is the outer world in which we live. We find ourselves in a world of conflict and suffering. And the whole question, the bija question, as I bring out in my translation, is the 4th line, the 4th quarter of the verse, in the very first verse, that Dhritarashtra asks, Kim akurvata Sanjaya? How do we act in this world? Not what we do, this is the typical translation. It's not so much what we do that is important, it's how we act in what we do. It's the consciousness with which we enter activities. This is a great gift that Hindu Dharma traditions have to offer the West. It's not so much what we do. It's not a matter of status, social status, caste, or any of this. It's how we enter into whatever activities we perform in this world. The upper arch, the outer arch, it represents the inner world of the true self and transcendence. And then, you can't see it too well here on the slide, it's a little dark, but there's a doorway through the arch, and that represents the innermost world of the heart and the divine, if we know how to open that door. So Krishna is being addressed here by Arjuna, where he turns to Krishna as his teacher. He announces, my very being is afflicted by a piteous weakness of spirit. My thoughts on Dharma are completely bewildered. I ask you, tell me what is definitely better for me. I am your student, instruct me, for I have offered myself unto you. This verse is very rich. The first part anticipates bhakti immediately. My very being is afflicted by a piteous weakness of spirit. He is feeling down. This is the way he's feeling. This anticipates bhakti. The second part of the verse, my thoughts on Dharma are completely bewildered. He doesn't know how to think about it. That's jnana. I ask you, tell me what is definitely better for me. In other words, what's better for me to do? This anticipates karma. And then finally, the 4th part of this verse anticipates how to approach a guru, an acharya. Okay? I'm going to skip this. The Yoga Sutra. Again, insight. Talk about insight. Ancient Indic traditions, thousands of years old, developed yoga. What is the original psychology in this world? I remember when I was teaching at Duke University and later at Christopher Newport in Virginia, I taught a course on psychology of religion, and my students were very surprised to see that I started the course not with Freud and his predecessors, but with Patanjali. They were looking at me, who the hell is this professor? Patanjali? Yoga Sutra? What? I showed them that the original psychology is in the Yoga Sutra. The mechanics of consciousness and thought is found in the Yoga Sutra. And then I turned to the Bhagavad Gita, and I said, look, you can look at the Bhagavad Gita as the first recorded therapy session in the history of the human race. Did you notice? Arjuna was like pretty upset, right? Had you noticed that, right? And again, very few Westerners can really appreciate even the title of the first chapter, which was conventionally given, Arjuna Vashada Yoga. So even yoga can be arising out of despair, despondency. Arjuna had a choice. He could either go on Prozac or the Prozac. They had some herbs, sure, right? Okay, that's, yeah. It's confirmed by my panel that there were herbs. Or he could come to a teacher and engage in a dharma samvadam, a dialogue. There is nothing more healing than dialogue. Dialogue. So here, yoga, this very famous second text of the Yoga Sutra. This is something I'm preparing for Yale University Press. The perfection of yoga occurs when in one's own core awareness, there is a turning that becomes uprooted from its conditioned state and expanded deeply within its pure state. These are very deep thoughts and too complex to get into right now, but the next text that follows, it just celebrates where it's all going. Then when the pure turning in one's own core awareness occurs, it is of one who truly sees in one's own essential nature, dwelling ever so deeply within it. This is exquisite psychology, it is exquisite philosophy, and it is exquisite metaphysics. And it's unexcelled by any tradition that I know of. Om, the Omkar. Again, this is very little known. We think that it's pronounced Om. And that is its nickname, by the way, O-M. But the real spelling of Omkar is A-U-M. And the Mundaka Upanishad says it's actually 3 syllables. And one who knows it has 3 syllables attains moksha. If you know it as 2 syllables, you go to higher planets. And if you know it as 1 syllable, you stay right here. And that's why we're all here, because we're not pronouncing it right. So here it is. Lots of Westerners think, oh, this is pretty. They have no idea that this is Sanskrit. This is not pretty. I mean, it is pretty, but it's not just pretty. Right? The A-U-M. The A represents the outer world. Here we go with the 3 layers. A, the outer world. The A, the U, the inner spiritual world. And the M, the innermost world of the heart. And true pronunciation of it requires a careful articulation, linguistic articulation, which allows a sonic mandala created in the linguistic cavity. So it starts with the and then the dot is an anuswar, which means goes through the tongue. So in effect, you're creating a sonic mandala with the mouth, which represents the mandala of the universe. This is beautiful stuff. This is like sacred, powerful poetry that India has to offer. And it's just, there's nothing parallel to it in the rest of the world. So I'm showing you how the abbreviations of the characters are put together in a composite form. The is the 3, the U is the tail, and the crescent moon and the star is the anuswar, the hem of the dot. So the Om as the 3 principles, these 3 principles of moving to the deepest level of reality to discover the Tat as the personal divine, and the 3rd, Sat, as the ultimate reality, to experience the ultimate reality. And this is the mapping of yoga. Tremendous stuff. But again, how many people really can appreciate the careful articulation of this? This is why we need the academic study of Hindu Dharma traditions. And finally, love. The greatest secret of all calls, the Bhagavad Gita calls it Sarvaguyatama. Sarvaguyatama. The supreme secret of yoga. In chapter 18, verse 75, Sanjaya characterizes the whole teaching of the Gita as Guyam Param Yoga, the supreme secret of yoga. Now, I have to confess to all of you that when I embarked on translating the Gita several years ago, after reading it in English translations all over the place, and reading it in Sanskrit for decades, many decades, I'm like 98 years old. I'm just well preserved. Yoga, you know, it's yoga. Yeah. So anyway, just trust. I've been reading this text for decades, and it was only when I had to translate it and go into deep meditation in a way that I never had before that I discovered something very, very special that I had never seen before. And that I had never found in anyone else's bhashyas and so on. Typically, Hindu Dharma traditions are too busy engaging in polemics. You know, bhakti is better than this, karma is better than this. And while they're engaged in polemics, they are not seeing something that really is a more fundamental precondition for all three. And the text tells us how it wants to be understood. There is an embedded hermeneutic that guides us to its ultimate message, which I had never realized. And this is why my editor at HarperCollins was furious with me, because I delivered the manuscript a year and a half later than the deadline. And you don't do that with HarperCollins. Okay? Here it is, Supreme Secret of Yoga. This is how Sanjaya in 1875 characterizes the whole teaching. So I began to ask, well, what is this supreme secret of yoga? Is this just flowery language, or did Sanjaya mean it? And then the last words of Krishna give us a didactic clue in a rhetorical question he asks Arjuna. These are his last words. Have you heard this whole teaching with thought focused on the single highest point? So I said, this is really something. What is this single highest point? So I began my search. Now, let me tell you what a very fine scholar at Oxford in the middle of the 20th century did. He put out a translation with Oxford University Press, and he said that the climactic portion of the Bhagavad Gita, the most important point of the Bhagavad Gita, is in the 11th chapter with the Vishwarupa. And this is terribly wrong. In fact, the chapter is anticlimactic. After Arjuna is totally blown away, as you know, right? He's frightened. He's fascinated, but he's frightened. And so what happened? What did he say? He said, please, bestow your grace on me, as a father is to a son, as a friend to a friend, as a dearly loved one to a dearly beloved, be pleased to show your loving kindness. And Krishna finally acquiesced and said, once again, you may behold my very intimate form. The amazing lesson here is that what's in front of us in our lives is seldomly appreciated. Arjuna had Krishna right in front of him, and yet he didn't fully appreciate it until Krishna really gave him the show. Right? The fireworks of chapter 11, right? Okay. So he misguided, R.C. Zaner misguided the whole Western traditional interpretation, the Western view of the interpretation of the Bhagavad Gita, thinking that the 11th chapter was the climactic message. In fact, I was invited as a special guest on a blog on the Bhagavad Gita, and the blog, the person running the blog, insisted that the Bhagavad Gita's 11th chapter was the ultimate end, right, following Zaner. And he said, as far as I'm concerned, you can drop the other 6 chapters. I said, excuse me? I said, you are kidding me. And he said, yes. He said, well, you have me here because you read my Gita. You obviously didn't read everything I said in there. I completely refute this. So the greatest secret of all, this, the climactic, dramatic, philosophical message is found in the 18th chapter, which naturally, it's at the end. And it is called Sarvabhugatama, the greatest secret of all. And we get little glimpses of the secret. It's a very subtle theme, but very powerful. Once you notice it, it's everywhere. It's ubiquitous, but it's subtly overt. Like, for example, in chapter 4, there's mention of the ultimate secret. Chapter 9, the greatest secret. Chapter 9, the king of secrets. I'm going through this quickly. It's in chapter 10, the idea of secret, the supreme secret in chapter 11. And in chapter 15, the greatest secret. The question then is, what is the greatest secret? The 18th chapter. We have to turn to the 18th chapter. This is where the greatest secret is revealed. But it has eluded every translator and interpreter that I have ever read. The 18th chapter is the longest chapter. It can be divided into 4 parts. I'm going to go through this quickly because it's in the book. But the great secret, the greater secret, and the greatest secret. Not only is it the superlative, but it's a super superlative. The greatest secret of all great secrets. And then finally, the concluding words, which each of the primary speakers of the Gita include in this conversation and narrative. So the great secret is verses 1 through 50, which starts like the beginning of a mountain, right? Because 1 through 50 is the great secret. The greater secret is 50 through 13. And then the greatest secret of all is only in 3 verses. Acting according to one's nature, one's dharma, to act according to one's heart in this world is the way to lead one to the greater secret, which is the realm of transcendence and the supreme self, the pure self, Brahman, and Purusha. The greatest secret of all has to do with divine love and a divine yearning. We'll show you that in a minute. And finally, the concluding words of Krishna and Arjuna and Sanjaya are in the 4th part. Now, this is the verse that precedes the announcement of the greatest secret of all. Notice how it talks about the greater secret and the previous secret. I've just shown you briefly what that is. And here, get ready. Are you all ready for the greatest secret of all? Ready? Okay. Okay, hold on. There it is. Oh, you don't understand Sanskrit? See, I'm going to do what I'm going to leave it at that. You just have to figure it out yourself. Because how else can you say it, right? Okay, but I am a translator, so, okay. So, there is no verse in the Gita that is as emphatic and as underscoring and as insistent as this one verse. And in Sanskrit, we don't have uppercase, double strike, underline, smiley faces. We don't have that in Sanskrit. We don't even have exclamation marks. Okay? We don't have that. So, if it's being emphasized, it has to be said. It has to be expressed. So here it is. The first emphatic statement is, here still further. So in other words, I've been telling you this all along. Now I'm going to tell you more. First level. The greatest secret is about to be revealed. But not just the greatest secret. The greatest secret of all. A double superlative, if you will. And if that weren't enough, if that didn't catch your attention, what about this? My supreme message. Are we waking up to this? Are we getting the idea? Yeah. Right? Smiley face and everything, right? Right? Whatever. And then, if that weren't enough, quotation marks is kind of the Sanskrit way to underline something. It's not that it's being quoted by someone else. It's underlined, okay? And here is... You're in heaven right now. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's wondering if he's going to be in heaven when he hears the secret. Yeah, but it's not exactly heaven. That's a Christian term, so we got to be careful, right? Okay, good. So here it is. Ready? Brace yourself. This is the greatest secret of all. And it's ishtosli made. You are so much loved by me. Now, notice how simple that is. Notice how simple that is. Krishna is well known for playing the flute. You know what? We all know why he plays the flute. He's trying to draw us as souls toward him. Although everything is contained within him, he doesn't contain our love. It's only he cannot control. If he could control it, it would not be love. Right? And notice, there's no small print, no lawyer language, no conditions, like we do. Like last evening at dinner, I told Kalyan, I said, I love you, but only if you're nice to me tomorrow in 8 Right? So there were conditions, right? You know, I said that to a friend. I love you, but hey, only, you know, you give me a Christmas present. Or whatever. Conditions. Unconditional love can only come from an unconditional being. And if we participate in that love, we might be able to offer that to other living beings. You know, on the university campus, you know, it gets crowded between classes, right? So I'm walking, and in front of me are 2 young ladies who are obviously students. And I admit I was eavesdropping, okay? Okay, I was listening to what they were saying. But I was startled. Because one asked the other, does Mike still love you? And the other one, quipped back, said, he better or I'll kill him. Do you realize what that did to me? Think about it. Mike is either dead because he didn't love her, or Mike is alive but is enslaved by her threats. I have been looking for Mike for years. I ask every new class I get, have you seen Mike? We cannot find Mike. Love cannot be coerced. It cannot be threatened. It cannot be manipulated. You cannot threaten hell. You cannot threaten hell.
She succeeded.
What's that?
She succeeded.
She succeeded, yes. Yeah, that's a different story. See, that's right. But we don't know what happened with Mike, okay? I'm still looking into it, I'll let you know, okay? Yeah, I'll let you know. But the point is this, that what this secret is. You know, in America, you know, you have billboards that tells you that Jesus loves you. Have you ever seen those? I see them all the time. In fact, I've gotten into this bad habit of clicking pictures with my little iPhone. I just love to collect these pictures of Jesus loves you on billboards. But you see, this is not what Krishna does. Have you noticed there are no billboards, Krishna loves you? It's a secret. Why is it a secret? Because he resides in the heart of every living being and waits for our return in grace of our own free will. There's no threat. So this is prema, right? This is prema. Pure love, purest love. And this is a great gift that poor R.C. Zahner of Oxford never knew. He never knew it. And that's why the careful academic study of Hindu Dharma traditions is absolutely necessary. Because otherwise they'll simply project their own Judeo-Christian Muslim ethos onto Hindu Dharma traditions. While that's a little interesting, but it doesn't tell you anything more about Hindu Dharma traditions. It just tells you more about their tradition. And again, Hindu Dharma traditions remain in isolation. And then the rest of the verse. So I think I have to finish up here rather quickly, so that's what we'll do. Again, the supreme secret. And I'll just end with a picture of Radha and Krishna. And you can see there is Krishna playing the flute. Now, usually, when Radha is by his side, Krishna has no need to play the flute. She is the supreme Vrajagopika. When she's there, no flute is necessary. Just trust me on this, okay? Okay? I've had, much study of this. So, but yet he's playing the flute here, by the way, in a miniature, Indian miniature that I have in my study. Every day, I gaze at this. And what's happening here is that both Radha and Krishna, they are calling us. They're calling us to come to him. I leave you with this. I counted as many as 22 times throughout the Gita where Krishna expresses the idea of souls coming to him. 22 times. But he says, I remain in the hearts of all living beings in a neutral stance. I love no one, I hate no one. But when someone turns to me with love, I go crazy after him. Right? Or her. So that's my modern colloquial translation. So it's something that it can take lifetimes. It may not happen in this lifetime. But imagine hearing the call of Krishna's flute, describing that call, and participating in listening to the poets, the numerous poets that describe the sound of Krishna's flute. Let's just listen a little bit more. Can you hear it? Well, keep listening, because one day you'll hear it. Thank you very much.